Now, it may be helpful for me to make a little clarification between the Last Supper and the Lord's Supper that you may not have thought of. The Last Supper, what we're talking about here from Matthew 26, was Jesus' special version of the Passover celebration meal that Jews have celebrated for millennia. It commemorates again God's deliverance of the Israelites from bondage in Egypt. It was a special version of this tradition meal because Jesus celebrated it with his disciples rather than with his biological family, because he made the meal ultimately about his own delivering of God's people from bondage. He's transforming the Passover. Jesus uses the Passover event to speak of his own death and resurrection, which will bring forgiveness of sins, the new covenant, the beginning of the kingdom. The Lord's Supper was celebrated from the earliest days of the church, both as a remembrance of what Jesus did on the cross and as a celebration of the anticipation of Jesus' return. You can see 1 Corinthians chapter 11. The church's ongoing practice of the Lord's Supper is not a reenactment of the Jewish Passover, but it's a Christian reappropriation of the Last Supper, even as the Last Supper itself was a reappropriation of the Passover. So it's sometimes helpful to make that distinction of the Last Supper from the ongoing presence of the Lord's Supper. As we partake in the Lord's table now in the church, and I hope your church tradition does it regularly. At my church, we do it every week. But as you partake of it regularly, let us do so mindful of all that God has done while also looking forward with great hope.